Welcome to the Artist Sessions. I'm Janice Cotter, the Gallery Manager at Pomo Arts. Before we start this evening, I'd like to express my gratitude to the Pomo Arts Board of Directors, as well as say how thankful we are for the financial support of the Government of Canada, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Port Moody. This evening, we have 3 new exhibitions opening at Pomo Arts. 2 of the shows are by the 2020 recipients of the Kwiyam Choi Exhibition Scholarship. Printmaker Sylvan Hamburger will be here on August 20th for a virtual artist talk and tour of Open House Press. Then on August 27th, you'll meet multidisciplinary new media artist Gina Luke to talk about her exhibition, Treading Lightly. You can view the digital gallery of their exhibitions on Pomo Arts' website. Tonight, you're going to meet the artists from the Federation of Canadian Artists Fraser Valley chapter, who are joining us as we scroll through the digital gallery for Pushing the Boundaries. Due to the pandemic, the exhibition is being presented as a hybrid of a digital exhibition online plus a live exhibition that you'll be able to view when Pomo Arts reopens in a few weeks. I'm grateful to the artists for their flexibility and for trusting us in the transition to the online presentation of their artwork. In Pushing the Boundaries, the artists were challenged to create works that took them out of their comfort zone, whether it was experimenting with new techniques, mediums, or color schemes, surfaces to work on, or different genres than their normal art practice. Each artist individually selected an aspect of their work to push beyond the usual. This challenge resulted in some new and exciting works by members of the Fraser Valley chapter. I'd like to invite the club president, Doris Biddle, to say a few words to open the exhibition. Welcome, Doris.
Hi there, Janice. Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank the Port of Moody Art Center for hosting our show, and also you, Janice Cotter, the gallery manager, for putting all this hard work into it, for both the live and the digital exhibition. It's a lot of work, actually. I didn't realize there was so much work putting this show on. There's a lot of behind the scenes going on. So, and I also like to thank Hans Barscher, our show chairman, for being involved with you and helping put this on. And also all the artists who had pictures in the show. And I must say, when I brought my picture in for the show, I was blown away by the really high caliber of work that was in the show. I thought it was really, really good work. And I guess that comes down to it being a federation show, that, you know, it is the artists are selected, and also the jurors. Thank you very much for juring our show. And viewing from what I saw, it must have been a really tough job picking the winners, because there was so much good work there. In fact, everything I saw, I thought was very good. I was impressed. And I'm very pleased to be part of this very high caliber club. So I'd like to congratulate our winners for the show. There was the first place winner was Cheryl Olford for Daisy Times with her lovely daisies. And the second place was Carolyn Bosch for Rising Strong. And the third place winner was Connie O'Connor for Light and Shadow. And then there are some honorable mentions. There is Doris Biddle, me, for the picture of fresh paint. and another one, Beverly Buddha. Okay, I might not be pronouncing that right, for Crescent Beach Hideaway, and Veronica Newell for capturing a moment. So thank you for all the artists and the winners and all the people participating. And I'll now hand it back to you.
Thank you, Doris. I appreciate you announcing all the winners. So we have 33 exhibiting artists in this exhibition, and I'm delighted to have some of them with us this evening. You'll meet them as we scroll through the digital exhibition and view their artwork. Once again, I'm going to be asking the artists who are with us to introduce themselves and share something about their artwork or their painting adventures. You can post questions for the artists in the Facebook comments. And if you open the digital gallery on Pomo Art's website, you can scroll along with it, through it with us. The gallery link will be posted in the Facebook comments. Please contact me if you would like to support these local artists and have questions about purchasing their artwork. My email address is at the bottom of the digital gallery. The first artist up this evening wasn't able to be here with us. Her name is Jean Abbott. And as you can see, Jean, like many of the artists, has included a few words on what she chose to do that pushed her beyond her usual scope. You'll be able to read those comments as you scroll through pushing the boundaries. Jean is a Maple Ridge artist who works mainly in acrylics, but she also does some watercolor and oil painting. Her style is realistic and is often based on photographs. Now we will move on to Suzanne Amendolagin. She is interested in portraiture, architecture, and landscape painting. Suzanne has been a member of the Federation of Canadian Artists for more than 10 years, but she likes diversity in her art practice, so she has now started spending time to learn about painting on ceramics and is producing bowls and other usable artworks. Now, the first artist who is here with us tonight is Laura Armbruster. Laura, I'd like you to join us and turn your sound on and join us and tell us a little bit about yourself and your artwork.
Tell them about yourself and your artwork.
I've been a seascape painter for a very, very long time. I've been a member here with you people for 40 years. I've been instructing, and I love doing seascapes, definitely.
And
that's great. Did you want to say anything else, Laura?
No.
Okay.
It's going to be a real good show.
Oh, it is. It is. And I also was going to mention that you had been an active member of the Federation for 40 years. Yes. And that you like to create a mood with harmonies of color and to communicate a feeling or memory to the viewer.
Right.
Thank you, Laura.
First time I had a picture showing in the sold, and it went to Quebec in the Federation.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was early on in your career with the Federation.
Right. Yes,
That's
I've been
great.
a member a long time.
That's really great. So thank you, Laura. And we will move on to our next artist, Carolyn Bosch. She was awarded the second prize by the jurors. And Carolyn, would you like to tell us a bit about your artwork that's in the exhibition? Carolyn, you'll have to unmute yourself. No, I can hear you now. Yes, absolutely.
So really, these two pieces in the exhibition, I like doing mixed media, expressive type of artwork. And a new thing that I have discovered, which has been really exciting me a lot, is being collage. Just the freedom it affords me to be able to try and express something, you know, something that's happened in my life or something that I'm going through. But I do like to use flowers as my muse. I like to work boldly. And this particular painting came after some unfortunate events in my life. And I just felt I needed to express that. It sort of all tied in with COVID. So I did a lot of collage work, but ultimately resorted back to painting just to express a feeling of hope that, you know, that we can rise above this and get on with our lives, and the silver lining around the cloud type of a thing. Yeah.
Thank you. And you have two pieces. The Rising Strong was the piece that won second.
Yes.
And you also have Sophie's Choice.
Yes. So Sophie was the person that I was speaking to in this particular picture. And so, you know, there was a strong African connection as well. And so that one came first and Rising Strong came after it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Caroline. We'll move on to our next artist, Audrey Bakewell. Now, Audrey isn't with us this evening, but I will say a few words about her artwork. Actually, I just want to, before I do, I'd like to point out that each time you see a link below the artist's name, you can click on it and go to their artist profile page on our artist directory. And also, when you see smaller images of the paintings, you can click on those and it will enlarge them so you can look at them in more detail. I'm not going to do that this evening, but when you're scrolling through on your own, you'll have time to check out these additional features in the digital gallery. So first of all, Audrey Bakewell took up painting to help her in recovery from a serious car accident. She said that it proved to be a blessing in disguise as it led to development of her inner dream to be an artist. She prefers to work in watercolor and acrylics. And Audrey has 3 pieces in the exhibition. And this is an installation photo of them in the gallery. So thank you, Audrey, for putting your work in. And our next artist is back to the club president, Doris Biddle. And she received an honorable mention for her painting, Fresh Paint. There's a little bit of a story behind this one, Doris. Could you tell us about it, how you came up with the idea to paint this piece?
Well, I was just in the process of painting a picture called Poppy Passion, which has been really quite a popular painting. And I kind of looked at my easel there and my coffee tin and my very messy palette, and I thought, wow, that would make a really good painting. And I used to belong to the Landing Gallery in Gibsons, which is now no longer there, which is unfortunately. And we had a theme called Fresh Paint. And I thought, hey, this is kind of fresh paint. And I made some of the colors on the palette like really shiny, and also the paint dripping from the paint brushes onto the easel, and the dripping paint I made very shiny. So when you see it in real, it's really shiny, and I called it Fresh Paint. And I thought it was quite appropriate for that theme. And it was also speaking to the pushing the boundaries, because I'm a very photorealism painter for the most part, but I'm always trying to loosen myself up and go outside the box. So after I do a portrait or something that's really tight, I try to do something that's really loose and free, because I find as an artist, that's when I grow the most, when I actually learn the most, as my other two paintings are definitely pushing the boundaries. As anybody who knows my work can see, this is not my usual work, because I take my own photographs and they're more photorealism. So it's fun to do these pieces, and I find it really draws on your creativity, and that's when you really get inspired, and you get away from being so tight and trying to get that perfect whatever it is you're doing. So I find I like to mix up the photorealism to the very abstract and very loose paintings. So
It
there
did
it
you well
is.
for this. It did you well for this show, Doris. Sorry
Yeah.
I interrupted.
So that's pretty
Thank you.
much it.
Thank you very much. We will move on to our next artist, Beverly Bidoff, and she isn't able to be here with us tonight. But she was also awarded a honorable mention for her piece, Crescent Beach Hideaway. Beverly said that the original scene was dominated by rather boring summer greens and grays. So her challenge for this piece was to create a more vibrant and interesting color scheme by changing the local color. For her second painting, she challenged herself by using a vintage photograph that she had of the location, along with her personal memories of this picturesque spot. And she also changed the format that she works. She doesn't usually work on the 24 by 12 canvas. So this was something new for her to try. Lynn Bradford has always had the need to practice art. Starting before school age with a pen and pencil, she felt driven to draw what she saw around her. She's played with many mediums, but has come to use acrylics or watercolors most often to experience the joy of capturing the light or hue that speaks to her. Now that she is retired from nursing, she spends many joyful hours practicing art, teaching art, and always learning. Eileen Butler loves painting, but she's a woman of few words. She told me this evening that she has always done art and she always will. Eileen is from Horseshoe Bay, and she was born there, raised there, and now is retired in Horseshoe Bay. Our next artist is Edward Demarche. And Edward is with us tonight. Edward, would you like to join us and say a few words about yourself and your artwork?
Sure, I'd love to. And it's great to be in all of your talented company tonight. I really appreciate being here. This particular work started out with the panel in the back, and I laid down the kind of the greens and the golds, and it felt very primitive to me. And so once that came, I had this brass wire around, and those two things kind of gave me an opportunity to honor a woman named Rosemary, my aunt, who is an Ursuline nun and has been one of the coolest and the hippest influences on my life. She if we remember, a lot of us, I'm of the age when Jesus Christ Superstar, the album, came out and just, blew the world apart. And Rosemary had just become a nun. And I received in the mail for my 16th birthday the original brown box set of Jesus Christ Superstar. And I considered myself a pretty cool 16-year-old guy, and I had never heard of this album. And I'd gotten it from my aunt, the nun. And that became typical of Rosemary's influence in my life. And it continued and still continues. What's important to me about this piece was in her 70s, Rosemary went to Colombia as a missionary after being a teacher and the abbess at her Ursuline order, and spent 3 years in the mountains in small villages as a missionary in her 70s. And when I saw the primitiveness of the original background, and then I laid the wire across it, the cross just came out of it. And then I had a piece of brass wire that I cut for the topping of the crucifix. That's the pushing the boundary part for me. I'm not a traditionally religious person. The work itself can fall into kinds of work I often do, but it really took an act of courage to enter it in the show as a traditional religious object. But I really wanted to honor Rosemary. So thank you guys. I hope she gets the opportunity to see this, because she's an influential presence in my life, and I cherish the opportunity to put that out in the world in this piece in remembrance of her and her generosity to me and to the church she served all her life and the people that formed that church. And that's kind of it.
Thank you, Edward. What a wonderful way to honor this woman. She's your aunt, you said?
Yeah, she's my mother's sister, and they're both in their 80s and struggling with the things that come with that age. But she's got a copy of this, and if this doesn't sell, she's certainly going to have the original, and she's kind of looking forward to that. So, yeah, she's deserving of the honor.
Thank you for sharing that story. That was really nice. I appreciate that.
No, not at all.
So we will move on to our next artist who isn't able to be here with us tonight. Nino Dobrosavelajevic. Oh, darn, I might have blown that one. I'm so sorry, Nino, if I have. He's fascinated with the beauty of nature and portraits by old masters. At the present moment and time, he's focused on symbolically opening a window to the past and introducing the masterpieces of well-known masters, but in his own way. As you can see, Nino also appears to have a wonderful sense of humor. So it's really nice. I think this work will require you have a nice long look at it to really take account of everything that it encompasses. Our next artist is with us tonight, and that is Suzette Fram. Suzette, would you like to join us and tell us a little bit about your work in pushing the boundaries?
Hi, Janice. Thank you. I have been painting abstract and semi-abstract paintings for many years. I've tried all sorts of different methods and mediums and styles, always exploring new things. For the last year or two, I've been exploring collage, and that's collage with paint. And the two paintings in this exhibition have been done exactly the opposite. The first one, Art in the Time of COVID, is done without a plan and just basically taking bits of paper and slapping them on and just adjusting and overlapping and until I got an arrangement that pleased me, and then adding decorating elements, dots and lines and splatters. My favorite elements in my painting is color and contrast, and that's always what I try to achieve is that. Plus, on top of that, then the texture and splatterings and lines and anything that looks really spontaneous and makes it more fun. The second piece, the rock and roll, was done exactly the opposite. It was done with a plan. I covered the board with some papers that had writing on them, typing, and then I painted over the whole thing, and then I came back with alcohol to remove some of the paint to show the writing through the paint in a few selected spots. And then I had shapes. I cut shapes out of found papers and painted papers, and then arranged a composition, which is in this case a cruciform, and finished it off with splatters and lines. And that's what I like to do, the splattering and the loose lines and that spontaneous stuff at the end. That's what gets my heart beating.
Thank you, Suzette. That was really great. You gave a wonderful explanation of your work, and you've made comments about each piece that people can read when they scroll through the exhibition. Thank you. Our next artist is Isabel Gibson, and Isabel was inspired by a trip to New Zealand. Isabel, what was it that challenged you to create pieces for this exhibition from your New Zealand trip?
Well, one of my paintings, just one of those paintings, is actually from New Zealand, the one called Mountain Mystique. And I hadn't been back to New Zealand for some time, so my husband and I had a wonderful trip around the South Island. And I was kind of thinking I should get on and have some different subject matter. I've been painting boats and barns and boathouses for quite a long time. And so I was very, very excited when I saw the light on the mountains and all the unfolding foothills. And so I came home with a lot of photographs, and it was just right at the beginning of the lockdown, around about mid-March, and I got busy and started painting mountains and foothills. And I'm now on number 15. So I've had time to sort of experiment quite a bit. And I experimented introducing one or two new colors, also stylizing some of the work a little. And you can't see it in that picture, but Mountain Mystique is actually 12 inches by 24 wide. And so the composition itself actually quite suited that style, but I've been painting on a lot of square canvases. So I thought it was also good that I changed things up a little. So that one is, on a different format, and also a scattering of boats is another painting that is on the 12 by 24 format. So, and I also have Gulf Island Boathouse, where I was experimenting, sort of stylizing. You can especially notice that in the clouds, I think. So that was what I was doing during the lockdown and continue to do. So I thought it was a great theme because it did encourage me to maybe try something a little bit different instead of just going along doing the same old thing.
Thank you, Isabel. There is a gallery installation shot that gives a better view of your pieces.
Right. Yes.
Framed here. Yeah. So you can get an idea of what they look like installed in the gallery and framed.
Right.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we are moving on to Victor Gligor, and Victor's not able to be here with us this evening. He was born in Romania and spent his youth in Transylvania. Victor discovered his passion for painting quite early and enrolled in the School of Art in his hometown. Although he dreamt of becoming an artist, he pursued a career in engineering. The main objective of his paintings, he says, is to capture colors, forms, mood, and atmosphere. Nature has always energized me. The movement of a lake, the imposing presence of trees or mountains. They feed my entire spirit and inspire me to channel my perceptions onto my work. That's a quote from Victor. So he has 2 pieces in the exhibition, Early Spring and Summer Memories. Now we will move on to Reet Herder. And Reet is here this evening. Reet, would you like to join us now and talk a little bit about the 2 pieces that you have in the exhibition?
Yes, thank you. This one actually is from Stewart Farm, and I was just mesmerized by the pump there because when I was younger, my dad had a pump and we always used a pump when we wanted water. So it just kind of made an impression on me. And what I wrote here is with the theme of pushing the boundaries, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to paint. But then I realized that whatever subject I decided to paint always seemed to be pushing the boundaries of my artistic endeavors. So with most of my paintings, my art plans seem so simple, yet when brush meets canvas, I start to realize that what colors I choose and how my strokes get on the canvas play a big role in how the outcome of my painting will be. Many times the colors that I mix on my palette don't always reflect correctly what my mind saw to begin with. So by pushing my boundary to discover how to mix the correct colors to achieve harmony, and then pushing my boundaries even further to get that one-time stroke just perfect, is actually my goal of pushing my boundaries to reach that desired outcome. So, and this one was in Fort Langley, and I saw a woman sitting in the corner trying to get out of the sun. And I tried to capture that by her pushing herself away from the sun so that she wouldn't get heat stroke or anything. But yeah, and it then led into the building with this old door that was kind of falling apart, but not falling apart, but weather stained. And I just enjoyed painting it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Reet. They're lovely. We are now moving on to Cindy Johnson, and Cindy is here tonight. Cindy, would you like to unmute and say a few words about your artwork?
Okay. Obviously, I'm a big fan of multiple shades of blue. Usually I paint crows, energized personality crows, bold color crows, and I had an urge earlier. One of them is called Calm and Collected, and kind of with a boundaries in the one called Night Moves, in that it's one of my very few oil paints. Love the creaminess of oils. I usually paint in acrylic. So that was definitely pushing boundaries for me. And I'm working on a whole series of landscapes right now, multiple colors, textures, just keeping in the calm, quiet theme.
Thank you. And on the side is a large detail image of Night Moves, but each of the smaller images can be clicked on to enlarge them and get a better view of the textures and details.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? Sorry.
No, I'm all good. It's just, it kind of speaks for itself. I was just in a very calm, zen, quiet mood. I usually paint skies, and this time I'm painting all waters. So it's another change for me, which I'm really enjoying.
That's great. Thank you. I hope the artists are finding that these challenges that they've taken up during pushing the boundaries are things that they might continue to use in their art practice. It's kind of a nice way to have experimented. Our next artist is Heidi Lambert. And Heidi is primarily a realistic and representational watercolor artist who's been painting in that medium for more than 30 years. Recently, she switched to painting in oil and discovered that it was a natural move from watercolor, finding that the values and colors in both mediums are similar. Heidi injects each painting with rich color and deep values, choosing subject matter where strong light and shadows are a factor. She also has a love of our West Coast landscapes. And I believe that she had mentioned in one of her write-ups that the beaches are a common thing that she enjoys painting. She has written a little bit about each piece of artwork that you can check out when you scroll through. And here they are installed on one of the gallery walls with a piece by Victor Gligor. And next up is Gary McDonald. And he is here tonight. I'd like to welcome Gary to tell us a bit about the two paintings that he has in Pushing the Boundaries.
Thanks, Janice. Yeah, it's great to be here. Like everybody else, I'd sort of been an artist off and on all my life. I actually started my first working job in my career after school was as a commercial artist. So I learned how to draw. So when I started thinking about retiring back in the 90s and wanted to be an artist, how do you do something that's different that a lot of other good artists are doing? And I thought, well, if I can find a way to use my drawing skills, I would use that. So now I paint everything. I draw everything first, and then I paint it in outline with black gesso. And then after that, I tell everybody it's just a matter of painting by number, except there are no numbers. So it's all about color management, complementary colors, guessing, which color goes best with where, and trying to balance a painting. And this one is a little unusual because it's a typical landscape, but of course it's got red and blue trees and lots of weird colors in it. And trying to create it's a very large 30 by 42 canvas. And when you start working that size, as somebody's already mentioned, it gets a little tricky because you have to still keep everything in its proper perspective and keep things relating to each other. So that was pushing the boundaries a little bit for me. The second painting is more whimsical. This painting came right from a photograph that I took. And I think I sent Janice a copy of the photograph that went with this, just so you can see. So the actual drawing that was done for this painting was very close to the photograph. But when I painted it, it got more and more whimsical as I did it. And so the colors got whimsical, the shapes got more blended, and it just sort of turned into almost it's a half cartoon, half abstract. and it just seemed like, a very strange representation of a realistic landscape, but I liked it. So I'm thinking I'm going to do a few more like this just for fun. And as I say, it's all about managing colors. So that's what I do.
And you seem to do a great job of it. The color palettes are so vibrant, and you really catch your eye. I believe there'll be an image later of the artwork installed in the exhibition. So you'll see that coming up. Thank you, Gary. Linda Morris is our next artist, and she has recently been accepted into the Federation of Canadian Artists. She began her artistic journey when her father passed away, and she used this as a wonderful form of therapy, and something wonderful started to happen. Linda found that she could enter another world when she painted that let her mind and her imagination take over. It released all of the stress, and her troubles floated away like a leaf in the river. So thank you, Linda, for your piece. Gwen Murphy was going to try and be here and then messaged me just not long before we started this evening that she wasn't able to be here. She has always had, she's always been interested in creative activities, and it wasn't until her retirement that painting became a regular part of her life. She began by taking art classes from prominent artists, and she has found that painting enhances her awareness of the world around her with its endless variety of satisfaction, creating paintings in her personal style. And she has two pieces. Shore View is 12 by 12, and Flowing River is 24 by 24. And you'll see those in it. Oh, and here's the installation picture right here. And you can see them along with Gary's pieces here on this wall, and two of Sharon's here, Sharon Olfret, and another one of Victor's. So it's nice to be able to have the artwork in the gallery and share images of it with you online. Veronica Newell is our next artist, and she also messaged that she wasn't able to make it this evening. She received an honorable mention for her piece in the exhibition, Capturing the Moment. Veronica is an acrylic and mixed media painter who tries to convey a sense of wonder and inspiration in her works. She had been trying to find a way to combine her quilting and physical therapy skills into her art. So for pushing the boundaries, she created two landscape scenes with figures using colorful fabrics and papers to add dimension and visual interest. So the second piece is Legendary, White Rock Beach, a familiar scene to many of us that has a different take on it. So that's great. Coming up next is Connie O'Connor, and you can find out more about her on her artist profile as well. Her piece, Light and Shadow, was awarded 3rd place. And oh, Connie is here tonight. I'm
here.
Oh, you are here. My apologies. For a second, I thought you weren't, and I didn't have notes for you. Connie, would you like to tell us a bit about this piece and your other pieces in the show?
Thank you. Yes. First, it's just a real honor to receive this recognition. I had no idea, because this is my first show with the chapter, that there were even prizes. So to receive 3rd place, I was very, very pleased. My challenge with this piece was working with a diptych. I'd never done that before. So it's a good size, 24 by 24. And the theme came out of being in isolation, the differences, dichotomies really in the whole COVID process. So it was called Light and Shadow. And I really enjoy working abstract and certainly mixed media, combining different kinds of painting techniques, different tools. There's graphite in there. you know, really watery acrylic, as you can see with the drips, and very gestural. I never actually work on an easel. This is all done on the floor. So I'm kind of crawling around with big paintbrushes, etc. And then the next 2 pieces, again, very honored to have 3 pieces in the show. The one on the left is called Let It Be. And when you see it in person, it's very, very textured. And I really fought with it because I wanted, another challenge was to make pieces darker, because my pieces are usually really bright and colorful. And I actually got out my sander and sanded some of the texture off, and then put it back and took it off. And this was the result. Again, a lot of energy in the piece, as the one on the right, which is called Motion. And the texture is sometimes created with recycled mesh that you would get when you buy flowers or produce. So I like doing that. I like recycling, and I like the feel of it, almost like feels like fabric in ways. And the names are inspired from my meditation practice, and I've been meditating for over 12 years. And I don't meditate and paint together at the same time, but after, when I'm looking at them, I just come up with different mantras and concepts from the meditation. So that's it.
Well, then your meditation serves as a wonderful inspiration for your work.
Thank you. Yes, I feel that way.
Thank you very much, Connie. Our next artist is Sharon Alford. She was unable to be with us tonight, but Sharon was awarded the first place prize for her painting Daisy Time. And if you click on it, it will become smaller. So you can click for smaller images or larger images. And I was telling the artist just before we started that I inadvertently discovered that I matched the prize-winning artwork tonight. I'm wearing a blue shirt covered with daisies. So Sharon, your work was an inspiration for my wardrobe. Thank you. Sharon isn't able, but she's to be here, but she says it wasn't her typical approach for doing Daisy Time wasn't a typical approach for a floral still life painting for her. Daisy Time has bright complementary colors with large brush strokes in areas of the painting, which was a new technique for her. It inspired her to continue creating a series of painting using large, colorful brush strokes. Now she also has 2 other paintings, Blind Bay Poppies and Keeper of the Flowers. And there's stories behind them that you can read. And you saw the installed image a little bit earlier. Our next artist is Christopher Potter. And Christopher isn't with us this evening, but he says that pushing boundaries is something that he experiences every time he faces a blank canvas. His mind knows what he wants to achieve, but there's always a little doubt that makes him wonder if he'll be able to produce the image. Christopher's inspiration comes from nature, from ancient towns, villages, and rural scenes, and from people wherever he travels in the world. Thank you very much, Christopher, for your work. Now, Lee Sevkov. Oh, I hope I pronounced that right.
You did.
Oh, good. Is here, and she can tell us about the works that she has in the exhibition. Lee, would you?
Okay. I've always been an abstract painter, but lately I've wanted to combine a bit of reality. So I kind of have coined the phrase abstracted reality. So the first one was a challenge. I actually reworked an older painting that was actually vertical. Now it's horizontal. It's a diptych, and I used resin, which was a big challenge on top of it, and then did gel pens on top of that as well, and then put the finish on it again. The second one was the first time I actually used a pouring technique. And I was playing around in my mother's studio, who is also an artist, who has inspired me and encouraged me to paint. She was actually the founding member of the Nanaimo chapter for the Federation. And it was her birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Mom. So I did this painting, and the challenge was usually I take weeks and weeks to do my paintings because there's so much detail in them. This one I finished in a few hours, and that was just so surprising, and I really like the looseness of it, not knowing where it started. And the same as the first one, I never know with those abstract types what's going to happen until I start doing things with them. The bottom one, Rocky, he was the biggest challenge. He is on 18 by 36, which I've never painted that size before or shape. And he was a lizard I saw in a zoo in Palm Springs, and he was no more than about 8 inches and brown. And I ended up making him very colorful, changed the rocks, and it's mostly collage with my own hand done papers and some from photographs of rocks I've taken. I take a lot of photos, and the lizard himself has thousands of dots of gel pens, literally thousands. So there's umpteen different colors, and I just sit it on my lap watching. My husband's a sports fanatic, so when there's sports on, I got my pens out and dots go, and he's just covered in thousands of dots. So I paint mostly to deal with chronic pain, and it takes my mind off things. And I've been painting for about 20 years now, and a member of the Federation for about 5 years. And I'm always changing my styles.
Thank you, Lee. I think taking on new challenges and changing your styles definitely helps keep work interesting.
Thank you.
Diane Spears is our next artist, and Diane is with us tonight. Diane, could you tell us, join us and tell us a bit about yourself and your artwork?
Sure. As you'll see, the artwork is quite different. This one is, a bit more realistic, and the other two are abstract. The challenge for me with this painting is that I do paint representational landscape. That's my typical way to go with acrylic or mixed media abstract. But this one, I really wanted to capture patterns. I've always been attracted to fabrics and texture. I have a couple of people I know that make quilts, and I crochet afghans. So I do a lot of crocheting blankets. So I really love the texture and the patterns and things. So I wanted to do a painting that was challenging in that way. Also, doing a figure painting is challenging for me because I don't tend to paint figures. This one, I didn't have any reference material, so it was really from my imagination, which is also a challenge for me. The other two paintings that I did are alcohol inks, and I do a lot of work now with alcohol inks. I find that it's very intuitive process. When you do work with inks and you're working with alcohol as your medium with it, it has its own way of moving, and you don't have a lot of control, especially if you're painting this style where you're using air to help move it around, whether it's a hair dryer or a spray can of gas of air. So you can get some really beautiful images, and then you can put a piece of alcohol in the wrong spot, or it will move and you can lose what you just got, or you can create something different. So it's a challenging but really fascinating process. And I love the vibrant colors that you get with the alcohol inks. So I'm doing a lot more with that these days, I think, than the acrylics.
Thank you, Diane. Pardon me, a frog in my throat. Thank you very much for explaining the work. I appreciate you going into the detail. And once again, if you click on the smaller images, you'll be able to look at the artwork in more detail. So I hope you'll take the time to scroll through, read about the artists, and click on the work. Carrie Stafford is our next artist, and Carrie is joining us here this evening. Carrie, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you, Janice. A little background about myself. I did start painting quite young, and I've always found it to be just a wonderful escape from anything else going on in my life. You're at your easel and it's just you and your easel, and it's just a great, like people have said, art has brought them peace and joy, and yeah, art is in my bones. I have a background in graphic arts, but graphic arts to me, I always found to be a bit on the boring side. It lacked excitement of surprise, and I'm really passionate about, my quote is, painting in a diagonal fashion in a parallel world. I like lots of loose brushwork and color, and my style is a blend of impressionism and abstract, and mostly work in oils. And then when I do some larger canvases, I'm now dabbling in acrylics also. I have the two paintings in our Pushing the Boundaries exhibition, and my challenge for this exhibition was to push myself to try to create paintings where the viewer would experience strong emotional responses. I would like the viewer to have a feeling of connection to my paintings, but to experience an emotional reaction and to be able to interpret the painting in a way that is just really unique and personal to them. The first painting you see there is called Dancing in the Shadows. It's an acrylic, and this painting was created as an expression of what living life is like during a worldwide pandemic. Life is now a shadow of our former lives. I would like the viewer to feel their raw emotions around our present reality, as well as to experience a feeling of hope. Life is still filled with dance. It's just different. And the second painting I have is titled Golden Forest. And this is a mixed media, which is, I think it's the second time I've tried mixed media, so very new for me and challenging. In this painting, I'm inviting the viewer to enter the forest in pursuit of the golden light. The golden light will mean something different to everyone, and it will be their personal story along with their emotions around that story that I'd like them to experience.
Thank you very much, Carrie. I appreciate you explaining your work and your art practice. That was really great.
Thank you.
Our next artist this evening is Gabrielle Strauss, and Gabrielle is here and will be able to tell us a bit about her colorful artwork. Gabrielle?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, can you see me? Oh, you can see me, there we go. So my crazy chicken was actually created by the leftover paint on my painting palette. And can you see me at all?
Yes, yes, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. And so I realized one day that when I soak my dried up paint and I add water, that it actually starts floating on the top. It gets all shriveled up. And so I started collecting these bits and pieces and put them randomly on a canvas, and then did what we call negative painting, or veiling the areas that we don't want to show with, lighter color. And this chicken emerged, and she's basically off to the hair salon. She's got the COVID hair, and you can see there are some feathers flying around. And I'm all about having fun with my paintings. I do representational work as well, but mostly I like experimenting, and it was just part of the period we were in as well. And for my other painting in the spring, I usually seem to develop an obsession with tulips that I buy in bunches, and then I love how they grow in the vase and get longer and lively and all over the place. And so I had kind of this instant vision of this crazy, wonky, nothing is straight, everything's crooked, full of life. Maybe an evening dinner with guests that at the time we couldn't have because we were all confined to our own little world inside our homes, and call it the joy of life, and realize that I think my biggest fear as an artist after the isolation is that I'm still isolated because I'm at home all the time. Anyway, so it's a fun piece. I added some sheet music for the curtains, and yeah, glad it got accepted. I've been with the Federation since 2005, and yeah, excited to be here.
Thank you, Gabrielle. I think you're one of many artists these days that has been heavily influenced by the situation that COVID-19 has put us in. Yeah.
So in a good way. It was good times to create, lots of time. So yeah.
Yes, I think a lot of artists have been quite productive in the last few months. Thank you. Our next artist is Lynn Thompson, and Lynn is with us this evening. Lynn, would you like to join us and tell us a bit about the 3 pieces that you have in Pushing the Boundaries?
Thanks, Janice, for all your work in hosting this show in these very unusual times. I've been a member of the Federation since 2019, so I'm a relatively new member. I would like to talk about my piece, The Tourist. I had been outside of this restaurant in Montmartre, Paris, some 29 years ago, but the photo I used was from a friend who went there 3 or 4 years ago, and I asked her to take a photo of this restaurant. The people in the painting were the challenging part for me, and I felt I was really pushing my boundaries to do these tourists in this scene. My 3 paintings that I have in the show are all done in pastel, and I'm not quite sure how long I've been doing pastel, probably maybe 10 years now. And I used to do watercolor. I really find that I'm more comfortable with the pastel than any other medium, really. And I'm pleased to be part of this show. So thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm very happy that you were able to join us this evening. And your artist profile is live on the directory as well. So
I saw that, Janice. Thank you.
And we have an installation shot that includes 2 of Lynn's pieces, all 3 of Cindy Johnson's pieces, 1 of Reet Herder's, Beverly Bidos' prize-winning piece, and Diane Spears' piece. So those are installation shots. Shirley Thomas is our next artist, and Shirley became a signature member of the Federation of Canadian Artists in 2010. She is a self-representing artist who paints every day if possible. Shirley feels that painting is like eating. If you don't do it every day, you get a gnawing feeling in your stomach. She works in oils, watercolors, and mixed media or collage. She usually paints in her studio, but also enjoys working outdoors on plein air. That's such a powerful statement about painting being like nourishment, the food you eat every day. I really like the illusion that it gives you. Thank you, Shirley. Sandra Tomchuk is our next artist, and she had intended to come but was unable to, had to change her plans at the last minute. Sandra is an impressionistic abstract artist, most known for her use of texture and her whimsical umbrella girls. She draws most of her inspiration from local beaches, beautiful BC greenery, and summer florals. Her work is done mainly in mixed media, giving layers of texture using paper, fabrics, and molding paste. She primarily uses acrylic, but has also done work in oils and watercolors. And the two pieces that she has in this show are representations of the girls that she is known for. And this shot is a 360-degree gallery shot of the artwork in one of our smaller galleries, and shows all of the artists that have work in there. Joyce Trigg is the next artist, and her paintings reflect her love and empathy for domestic animals and the awe of the magnificent wildlife she feels privileged to see. Although animals are her primary subject matter, Joyce also loves to paint the beautiful details of everyday things in her life, hopefully showing the familiar in new and unexpected ways. And the piece that she has in this exhibition is Back to Back, horses. Our last artist for the evening is Donna Wakefield. And Donna is most excited by the play of light and shadow on her chosen subject. And that's one of the key considerations when she's developing an idea into a painting. She always looks for interesting patterns of shape and value within the subject, with a keen interest to develop her skills, and with the belief that creating art is a lifelong journey of learning. Donna continues to participate in courses and workshops to advance her growth as an artist. And she's also made a comment about pushing the boundaries, in that painting in oils was her challenge for this exhibition. So now I just wanted to say that at the bottom of the gallery, digital gallery, I've talked about the digital and the show being a hybrid of the digital and live exhibition. And I just really want to express my gratitude to these artists for their flexibility and their patience and their trust in us to present their work in different ways than they have been used to. So I'm very appreciative that the artists are able to do that. And also to support these local artists. They're all from between, I believe, as close as Coquitlam and as far away as Abbotsford and Mission, I think, is what the chapter information said. And for more information, you can see the artist profiles on the directory, and click on the link to the chapter, the Fraser Valley chapter's website. if you are interested in the artwork purchasing or have questions about the artwork, you can email me at gallery@pomoarts.ca. Also, Port Moody Art Center is a non-profit society, and the artist profile page is a benefit of purchasing one of our memberships. So I hope you enjoyed this. Now I'm going to see if there were lots of wonderful comments on Facebook, but I don't think we had any questions. So the artists can maybe go afterwards and look at Facebook and see if it was any of their friends or family making these wonderful comments and respond to them. And I will invite the artists to stay on with me for a minute after we end this event. And I, at this point, would like to thank our audience for joining us and to invite you to come back next week for Sylvan Hamburger's artist talk and tour of his exhibition, Open House Press. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, and hopefully you'll be back next week. Good night, everyone.